Hello and welcome back to Down to the Tyre. Now, this week's episode I was really hoping would be my F2 predictions. However, PHM still have a driver they haven't announced. So I don't want to put anything out into the universe until we have the full grid. Even though I've heard a lot of rumours about who it's going to be, I just don't want to make any predictions until we know exactly who all 22 drivers are going to be. And I was hoping we'd know by now, but we don't. So that's having to be put on hold for a future episode. So now I've kind of got a bit of a 20-minute chat, basically, because I didn't really have any other topics in mind. So what I'm bringing you is just a bit of a chatty one, a bit of a gossipy one. We're just going to talk about anything recent that's been going on. It's going to be a bit random. It's going to be a bit less structured than usual, but hopefully you still enjoy it. So let's get straight into it. Now, I want to talk about the main racing that I've been watching lately. And no, it's not Formula E because I don't have TNT Sport. It's actually Formula Regional Middle East and F4 UAE. Now, I love these championships. They're winter series, which means that a lot of drivers do them outside of their fall campaigns, and they are so competitive and so worth the watch. And they're free to watch on YouTube. If you follow me on TikTok, you will have heard me going on and on and on about how great these series are. So to hear me talking about them on here will be no surprise to you. But now we've had 2 rounds of each. They've both been at Yas Marina. And now I think, because there's only 5 rounds overall in both championships, you know, we can kind of tell who's in the championship contention, who isn't at this point. We can tell who the best are. We can tell who the front runners are. So I feel like it's time to just have a chat about them. I'm going to start with Formula Regional Middle East, just because that is the championship that's slightly higher up the feeder series ladder, being a Formula Regional series. And I want to talk about Tuukka Tarppanen because he's doing FREC later this year, and he's really taking well to the Formula Regional car in Formula Regional Middle East. He's leading the championship right now. So far, in 6 races, he's had 2 wins, 1 P2, 2 P4s, and a P6. So pretty good. And I've been really impressed with him. He's one of the, younger, less experienced drivers on the Formula Regional Middle East grid. But, I mean, if this is anything to go by, I think he is going to be pretty good in FREC later this year. I'm really excited to see how he does. Obviously, he's in the Ferrari Academy. Ferrari kept him and didn't keep James Wharton, which was quite interesting because they've always kind of been at the same level as each other. But, I mean, clearly Ferrari know what they're doing because he is doing amazingly in Formula Regional Middle East right now. I also want to talk about Martin Stenson because he's not actually in championship contention because he's only doing the first few rounds of Formula Regional Middle East. So he's currently had 2 P3s, 2 P2s, a P5 and a P4, which leaves him second in the championship. I've been super impressed by him as well. Obviously, he's way more experienced than Tuukka Tarppanen because he's had that whole year of FREC last year where he came second in the championship and won the rookie championship as well. He's clearly a really experienced driver in terms of Formula Regional. Not really. To be fair, there are a lot of drivers who've had way more years in Formula Regional than he has, but compared to some of the others on the grid who are complete rookies to Formula Regional, he's quite experienced. And I've been really impressed with him as well, but to be honest, not surprised because he was really good in FREC last year. I think this will really set him up well for his F3 season as well. I just think he's going to have a really good F3 season thanks to the fact that he's done Formula Regional Middle East, because I do just think keeping active over the winter by being in a racing series, actively driving a car every weekend or every other weekend in competition with others, I think just really helps drivers when they do go into their full year. I mean, take Pepe Marti, for example. He did Formula Regional Middle East last winter and he did so much better in Formula 3 the year after he did Formula Regional Middle East than the year before. So maybe Martin Stenson is going to have a really good year in Formula 3 as well. I'm looking forward to seeing it. And the final driver that I'm going to talk about in this much depth is Taylor Barnard, because he, obviously speaking of F3, he did F3 in 2023. He was good. He was with Genza, so obviously his potential was there was a ceiling over it, if that makes sense, because Genza are not a top team. However, I think he is a very strong driver, and he did have a few podiums throughout his F3 experience, and now he's in Formula Regional Middle East. He did it last year as well and finished runner-up to Andrea Kimi Antonelli. So I have no doubt that this time around he wants the championship. However, his first round was so good. Well, I mean, it was good. He got P1, P8 and P1. So it was good. He was definitely the front runner in that round. I say it was good but not amazing just because I've just seen Tuukka Tarpinen get P1, P4, P1, which is obviously better. But at the time of round 1, that was really, really good. And I do think he's really talented. However, the second round didn't go too great. He got a P16, a P22 and a P3. So obviously the P3 was fine, but the rest, definitely a round to forget. So yeah, that's kind of the top 3 of Formula Regional Middle East. As I'm sure you can tell from the way this episode's going already, this is going to be a lot more chatty and informal than usual, just because I'm in that mood and we don't really have a particular topic to talk about, so we might as well just be a bit looser with it and see where we end up. So yeah, that's Formula Regional Middle East for you. If you're watching it, let me know. Let me know who you're rooting for, who you're impressed by, who you're not impressed by. It's a bit beefy, but, is there anyone who's not impressing you? Anyone who you thought would be doing better? I'm not trying to cause any beef with any drivers, but yeah, let me know any of your thoughts. And now we'll move on to F4 UAE. Right, we're back. It's F4 UAE time. Let's go. So, it's impossible to talk about any F4 at this point in time, I would say, without talking about Freddie Slater. Because he is honestly, I would say at the moment, the most promising prospect coming out of he's just done, I was going to say coming out of karting, but he's just done Ginetta Juniors. So I guess he's had a year in cars, but he's not had a year in single-seaters yet. So I guess he's the most, talented driver who's coming into single-seaters this year. There, we'll say that. He did do a few rounds of British F4 and Italian F4 at the end of last year, and he did the F4 Macau race. But this is going to be his first full year in single-seaters. So, yeah, most talented driver who's doing his first full year of single-seaters this year. There we go. That took us a long time to get to, but we made it. And I just think Freddie Slater's amazing. I was thinking the other day, why hasn't Driver Academy snapped him up yet? And to be honest, I kind of wonder if it's a strategic decision from him not wanting to have someone have control over his career so early on. I mean, we've seen Jack Sherwood. I was going to say Jack Sherwood. I meant Jack Crawford, but I was thinking about British F4. Shout out Jack Sherwood, though. But Jack Crawford, we've just seen him saying that, the Red Bull Academy progressed him too quickly. It didn't really help his progression as a driver. They switched him from team to team too much. So I'm kind of wondering, are younger drivers kind of avoiding driver academies if they don't need the funding? I don't know what Freddie Slater's financial situation is, but I don't know, maybe he is just able to afford F4 right now, so he's thinking it's not worth letting, an F1 team have control over his moves and where he goes, and also maybe he's thinking it's just not worth, putting all his eggs in one basket that early on. I think it can be quite limiting as you get down the line, feeling that loyalty to, I'm not allowed to go with a different team. If I get an opportunity from a different team, I'm not going to be able to accept it, stuff like that. So yeah, maybe that's a strategic decision. But anyway, back to F4 UAE. That was an absolute tangent. But Freddie Slater, he's doing well. When I say that in the 6 races he's done, his lowest result has been P4. I mean, that tells you how well he's doing. He, in the first round, got P3, P4, P1. In the second round, he got P1, P3, P2. I mean, what more can I say? He's incredible. He's so, so good. If you're going to keep an eye on any, young junior driver coming up the ranks, I'd say, is it too soon to say he's, the second coming of Andrea Kimi Antonelli? Maybe it's a bit soon, but I've said it now. So, there we go. Next, I'm going to talk about Keanu Al-Azari. Now, he's a really great driver as well. And I feel like I've sold Freddie Slater so strongly that I can't sell anyone else as strongly as I sold Freddie Slater. But Keanu Al-Azari is a very strong driver and he's had a very nice start to the season. We'll disregard the P30 in race 2 of round 1. But apart from that, he's had 2 P1s, 2 P2s and a P10. So not bad. Not bad at all overall. He's from the United Arab Emirates, so he's quite experienced on the Yas Marina circuit, I believe. But still, very, very impressive. And he's doing Spanish F4 this year, I believe, for a second season. So yeah, if you watch Spanish F4, then definitely keep an eye out for him. And the next driver I want to talk about is a rookie, actually, in F4 UAE, and just F4 in general, I believe. And that is Keen Nakamura Berta. Now, he won the first race of the season. So clearly, he's stepped up to F4 and he means business. He has been really strong. His lowest result has been P12. So for a rookie, that is incredibly strong. He's also had a P8, a P5, and a P2 and a P3. 2 podiums in the most recent round. I've been really impressed by him. He's definitely the standout rookie so far this year. Obviously, we've still got 3 rounds to go. We'll see what happens. But yeah, overall, I've really been impressed by a lot of drivers in F4 UAE, and I'm really excited to see, you know, what happens for the rest of the season. And I have been speaking about the top 3 in these championships. I know I just spoke about the top 3 in Formula Regional Middle East. I've just spoken about the top 3 in F4 UAE, but I do want to go on a tangent about Dorian Pin here, because she is P8 in this championship. And I don't want to put any other female drivers who are in F4 UAE down, but they're nowhere near her. That's just a fact, you know. They are P29, P32 and P33 in the championship. Tina Hosman, to be fair, she's P33, but she has only done 1 round. So obviously she's at a disadvantage compared to the others. But Dorian has just been incredible. Like, I have been so impressed. I mean, she's had a couple of not so great rounds, but mainly because incidents got in the way. A P24 and a P20. We'll forget about those. Who cares? No one cares. We'll focus on the others. P8, 2 P6s and a P5. I mean, considering she's also a rookie in F4, I mean, obviously I know she did a few rounds at the end of the year in 2023, but she's not done a full year of F4 yet. She's not even done a full year of single-seaters yet. It's just incredible. I've been so impressed by her. I just really like her. I think she's going to do really well in F1 Academy. And again, definitely a driver to watch this year. Now, this championship, I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about, because basically, long story short, I'm recording this on Friday night. This is going to go out on Sunday. And I wasn't sure if it was kind of going to be outdated, because there's a round of this championship happening this weekend, and that's FROC. So I kind of was like, do I want to speak about it? Because anything I say might be outdated by the time this goes out, because races will have already happened for round 2. But I still want to talk about round 1. I still want to talk about it. Just keep it brief. I won't go in as much detail as I've done for the previous 2, Formula Regional Middle East and F4 UAE. But FROC, Roman Belinsky has been massively impressive. In round 1, he got P1, P2, and then P1. I mean, he's been amazing. Like, I've just not been as impressed by any other driver as I have been by him. Christian Mansell's been good. He got P2, and then he retired from the second race, and then got another P2. But I think the thing is with Christian Mansell is I expect great stuff from him because he's just an F3. So I'm not as shocked when he does well. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, he's way further in his career than Roman Belinsky is, and a lot of the other drivers who are on this grid. One I wasn't that impressed with, sorry, but it's Tommy Smith wasn't as good as I thought he was going to be. He got P7, P6, P12. I was expecting a lot more. I was expecting a lot more from Tommy Smith, but yeah, I don't know. Michael Shim was good. He got a P3 in the first race. Alex Crosby as well, native Kiwi, P3 in the second race. Gerard Shea as well. Obviously, Gerard Shea is a difficult one because he won Chinese F4 in 2022. Obviously, a really successful season. Then GB3 in 2023 just really didn't go the way he wanted it to. I think he was about P20 in the championship roundabout. But he got P1 in the second race. So, fair play. It was nice to see. I always like seeing a driver from GB3 do well because I watch GB3 a lot. I go to a lot of the races. So, yeah. And I've not mentioned Liam Skeets yet, but he's a native Kiwi as well. And he's P2 in the championship. P5, P4, P3. I feel like he's going to be Mr. Consistent. And while he might not always be on the top step of the podium, I think he's going to do well in the championship just from consistently being up there, nearabouts. So, yeah. I've kept it brief just in case anything major happens this weekend and everything I've said is irrelevant. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to watching FROC this weekend. I tend not to watch it live because the time zones are interesting. I'm from the UK and obviously FROC takes place in New Zealand. So I do tend to watch the races back, not live, but I'll definitely still watch them. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. If you are from New Zealand, then lucky you, because you can watch them at normal times for you. But if you're not from New Zealand and you want to tune in, they're all on the Motorsport TV app anyway. So it's super easy to watch them back. So I highly recommend it. Now, I don't really have a plan for the second half of this episode, I can't lie. I think I'm just going to talk about some of the, transfers that there's been between championships and between teams in the feeder series, because that's all there really has been. There's not really been much big news in the feeder series this past week. And yeah, I was planning on doing some sort of like big predictions video, but obviously none of the championships have all their drivers announced yet, when I was hoping at least one of them would, especially F2 because there's only one seat left. But yeah, let's just carry on the chatty vibes. We'll just go through some of the recent driver announcements. And I'm going to start with Lena Bühler returning to FRECA. She's with ART, obviously, because it's part of the deal that if you finish in the top 3 in F1 Academy, I believe, then you get a seat in FRECA, or if you get offered a seat in FRECA, the team can run 4 cars and you can be the 4th driver. So you're not taking up one of their 3 seats, basically. So the winner automatically gets a FRECA seat with the team they won F1 Academy with. And then the 2 runners-up get the option to have a FRECA seat, and then the teams run a 4th car for them. I think that's how it works. And so, yeah, Lena Bühler is doing it with ART. She's obviously a Sauber junior. She raced in the championship in 2021 and 2022 now. This is a tricky one. Obviously, I don't know, it's hard. She's 26. I kind of just feel like she could probably get a career in racing elsewhere, like a paid career in racing rather than being a junior driver. I mean, everyone bullies people like Roy Nissany for being like a Williams junior in his late 20s, but I mean, it's kind of the same thing. And while, I support her, I hope she does well, but she's already done FRECA for 2 years. And then she's done F1 Academy. And then now she's going back to FRECA. I don't know. I don't want to be ageist or anything, but I do just think at 26, I think, rather than trying to climb the feeder series ladder, because at the end of the day, she's going to be 27 going into F3. And this is if she only does 1 year in each championship. Then she'll be 28 going into F2, and then 29 if she made it to F1. It's just not realistic. I honestly think she could look elsewhere in the racing world and get paid to drive rather than paying to drive. And, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see women, not just succeeding in single-seaters, but elsewhere as well. And I think the chances of her progressing in single-seaters to a paid drive are a lot slimmer than other forms of motorsport. So, yeah, I've got mixed feelings about this one. I'm not going to say too much more. I don't want to get myself cancelled by saying anything that will upset people. But I support her. I like her. But I just don't know if this is the best career move for her. And I'll leave it at that. The next one I'm going to talk about is Leo Robinson is joining JHR Developments in British F4. He's only 14. He's turning 15 next month, obviously because British F4 and other F4 series as well have an age limit of 15. You have to be 15 to race in them. So he will be by the time the championship starts, obviously, but he'll definitely be one of the youngest drivers in it, if not the youngest, I reckon. But it seems he is incredibly talented. Now, I don't watch Danish F4, so I wasn't familiar with this, but he actually made his single-seater debut in the second half of the Danish F4 Championship last year, and he finished 4th after only doing half the season. And it was his first ever F4 season. Danish F4 doesn't have the age limit, for context. You don't have to be 15 to do Danish F4. So that's why he was able to do it. Clearly a very talented driver. I've seen a lot of people saying that they think he's going to be a championship contender, and to be honest, from those statistics, I can't really disagree. I have to believe them. I can't argue. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on Leo Robinson if you're watching British F4 this year. I'm hoping to go to at least one of the Donington rounds, so I'm looking forward to that. And now I'm going to talk about another driver who's done British racing, but actually GB4, not British F4, the other F4 series in the UK, and that is Zach Ping. And this isn't actually that he's got a seat anywhere or anything, but he's actually confirmed that he will stop racing this year and focusing on his education. He's the brother of Noah Ping, who did GB3 this year. Zach Ping did GB4, and he also competed in 5 rounds of USF 2000 and then 3 rounds of GB4, so he didn't do the full season. His best result was 4th in GB4. But yeah, it seems that he's putting his racing career on hold for the time being, which is a shame because he's clearly a talented driver, but, you know, it's clear he's got his priorities and, you know, focusing on his education isn't a bad priority to have. So yeah, I wish him all the best. I'm sure, you know, maybe we'll see it down the line. We'll see him at some point racing again, but we'll have to see. And now we've got an F3 one. So this one's a bit more, you know, international, a bit more European rather than me just talking about the UK ones. But I'd say UK motorsport like GB3, British F4, GB4 are kind of the ones that I'm most invested in. Almost, I know the most about them maybe, but that's because I attend them in person, being from the UK. But now we've got an F3 one, and that's Joshua Dufek is joining PHM in FIA F3. He's 19. He competed in partial FREC and Euroformula Open campaigns last year, and he finished 13th and 7th respectively. And he also did the last round of F3 with Campos. So yeah, I mean, this actually makes me question, is Taylor Barnard going to go to PHM? Sorry to jump away from Joshua Dufek for a little bit, but I mean, you know, I don't really have much else to say about Joshua Dufek doing F3. It was pretty predictable that he was going to step into F3. It wasn't, you know, set in stone that it was going to be PHM. Obviously, he did the last round with Campos, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything else to add about him, but I do want to talk about Taylor Barnard because there's a lot of rumours that Taylor Barnard is going to be racing with PHM, and obviously they're really good in Formula Regional Middle East, and he's had a lot of success with them in Formula Regional Middle East. But I don't know. It scares me, the idea of him going to PHM, because, you know, I've been saying I think he's going to win a race in F3 this year. I really think he's going to do well in F3 this year, but with PHM, I'm not so sure. He can do well with PHM in Formula Regional Middle East because they're pretty good over there. But in F3, we know they're not. So I'm a little bit concerned. I mean, surely he's had top teams approaching him. Surely, because he came 10th, I'm pretty sure, in the last F3 season. He was really, really good, especially considering he was at Genza, who are also not a top team. So I was kind of hoping to see him go somewhere better. Not kind of, I mean, I'd say Genza to PHM is a bit of a sidestep. It's not really up or down. But yeah, I'm a bit like, I'm kind of, you know, awaiting the announcement, but I think it's pretty safe to assume he's going to PHM. But I do have to question, did he not get a better offer? I don't know. I know he's got ties to PHM and everything, but they're not the best in F3. So I'm a little bit worried for him, but we'll see what happens. He's a very, very talented driver. I mean, if he wins a race for PHM, you know, that will prove how talented he is. But, you know, I'd love to see him racing with a different team. One where he can be consistently fighting at the top. But hey, nothing's been announced yet, so I'll stay hopeful. And the next one I want to talk about is a driver who I mentioned earlier in this episode when I was talking about F4 UAE, and that is Keanu Al-Azari. He's staying with MP Motorsport in Spanish F4. As I said before, he's doing his second Spanish F4 season this year. He's 16. He made his debut in the series last year. He finished 9th with 1 podium in the championship overall. And obviously, as we said, he's currently in his second season of F4 UAE with 2 wins. I feel like... Wait, I just said he's in his second season. I meant he's second in the championship. But keep it rolling. I'm not going to edit that out. But yeah, no, he's a really great driver. And he's still so young. He's only 16. So I think it makes sense to do another year of F4, particularly since he was 9th last year. I think he could be fighting for the championship this year, surely. So yeah, excited to see how he does overall in Spanish F4. I need to get more into Spanish F4. I watch a bit of Italian F4, quite a bit of British F4, because as I said, I attend some of the rounds. I watch F4 UAE, obviously, as we've said, but I feel like I need to delve more into a lot of F4 series a bit deeper, beyond kind of the, you know, British and Italian, because quite often they're just free on YouTube, so why not? And the next one I'm going to talk about is actually, it's not single-seater related, but it's a driver who was in single-seaters in 2023. This is Sid Smith. He is switching to the Porsche Carrera Cup. Great Britain, the Great Britain variety of the Porsche Carrera Cup, racing with Team Parker Racing, and he'll be in the pro class. Now, this is interesting. He's 17 years old. He finished 8th in GB4 in 2023, And he was already confirmed for this winter's Porsche Sprint Challenge Southern Europe, likewise with Team Parker. Now, I think it's always interesting to see a driver kind of, dip their toe into single-seaters and then dip out again. He's clearly, got an opportunity in the Porsche Carrera Cup. It's a great championship. And I kind of feel like, obviously, as a young driver, you've got this dream to make it to F1. You've got this dream to make it far in single-seaters. But I guess sometimes reality has to kick in and you have to think, do I actually stick with this and, spend a lot of money trying to climb through the ladder? You could get to about F3 or F2 and then it just not go anywhere. Or do you step out of single-seaters and then go somewhere else that isn't single-seaters and actually have a career from a younger age, but not in single-seaters? And I guess that's the decision he's made. But I'm always intrigued when I see drivers stepping out of single-seaters to race elsewhere. And I kind of always respect it, to be honest, because, I'm sure that will be a good move for him. And, because obviously, as I said, I go to a lot of racing in the UK. I'll definitely try and catch him at a race sometime. I'm, big fan of the Porsche racing, the Porsche Carrera Cup, etc. So, I'll try and catch a few races of that this year and keep an eye out for him. I feel like there's been a lot of British motorsport transfers this week because I've got another GB3 one, and that is Patrick Huizenroda. And I really had to think when I was pronouncing his name then. I actually paused recording so I could, prepare myself to pronounce it correctly. Because sometimes when I'm speaking really quickly, I just trip over my words, but I really wanted to get it right. I'm proud that I did. Anyway, he's joining JHR Developments for GB3 this year. He's 17. He did British F4 last year. He finished 19th. And he also entered the final 2 GB3 rounds with Elite Motorsport in 2023. And he took a podium in the last reverse grid race. So a great start already, even though the season hasn't started. Obviously 19th in British F4, not brilliant, but we'll see what he can do. I really like, as well, I spoke about this on TikTok, I really like this career trajectory that a lot of drivers are doing where they go to British F4, then they go to GB3, then they go to FIA-F3. And I feel like it's becoming so much more common. I actually think GB3 is becoming quite a rival for FRECA because a lot of drivers, like Louis Sharp, who won British F4 last year, Will McIntyre, who was runner-up, even people who are further down the grid in British F4, instead of, stepping into European motorsport for FRECA or going straight to F3, for example, they're using GB3 as a bit of a stepping stone. And GB3 is starting to do more rounds abroad. They do Spa and Zandvoort and tracks like that. And I do think it's quite handy doing that in between F4 and F3. I actually think it's really working for a lot of drivers. Luke Browning, to name one, Zach O'Sullivan, to name another. It worked for Clement Novelat back in the day. I really like the fact that it's becoming such an established and respected route, because I've been watching GB3, formerly British F3, for years now, and it's so nice to see it just being respected and viewed as a good route to get to F3. It's worked for a lot of drivers in the past, but I feel like quite often, like with Luke Browning and Zach O'Sullivan, it's usually the driver who's winning the GB3 championship who steps up to F3. But even this year we're seeing drivers who didn't win it stepping up. Joseph Loke, for example. So I'm really happy to see that GB3 is, becoming so popular with drivers, especially like drivers based in the UK. I'm sure it has great financial benefits because if they go and do FRECA, that's obviously going to be a lot more expensive than doing GB3 because they're going to have to travel between the countries and everything. Whereas if they're doing GB3, a couple of trips abroad throughout the year, mainly in the summer, so they can stay in the UK, they can, stay in education if they're doing so. If they're doing education, if they're of the age to do education, they can stay and do that and also save a lot of money. So, I really like the fact that it's becoming, that route. Anyway, I'll talk about F2 again now. I don't want to just go on and on about British feeder series in case any of my listeners aren't from the UK. So we'll go to something a bit more international, F2, and that's Roman Stanek. Now, he's staying with Trident for his second year. He's 19. He finished 18th in the standings last year. His best race result was 5th. Now, I'm wondering, this took a while to announce. And obviously, we know in the past Stanek has had budget problems. I wonder if it's taken this long to announce because he's still struggling with budget and they were having to finalise the contract. But anyway, it's signed, so that doesn't really matter. It was predictable. I'm sorry, like it was just. I think everyone knew Stanek was going to stay for another year with Trident. So yeah, I don't really have anything to add. I don't think Trident at the moment have the potential to be fighting at the top in F2. In F3, yes. In F2, no. He'll be teammates with Richard Verschoor. Richard Verschoor is very experienced, so I'm sure he'll learn from him. And yeah. I don't really have, I don't think he's going to be fighting for the championship. I think he'll do better than 18th, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really have many strong thoughts on that one. Not really many strong opinions or anything that I've really got to say about it, to be honest. It's just a bit of a, yeah, saw that coming, same as last year. A bit like, in F1, how every team has the same lineup as they had last year. It's a bit like, I don't really have much to comment on it. It's just the same as before, but yeah, no, I mean, I'm happy to see him still in F2. When he did F3, I thought he was a lot older than he was. I don't know why. I thought he was 22 doing F3, and then I found out at the time he was 17. So yeah, I mean, he's only 18 now, so he's still very, very young to be doing F2, so he might as well stay another year. Bit like, again, Jack Crawford, to mention him again, just the fact that he's so young, he's 18 and he's doing his only doing his second year of F2. I feel like a lot of these drivers have progressed quite quickly, and it probably will do them good to just, stay a couple of years. It's a bit like Théo Pourchaire. He didn't really have a reason to move on too quickly. He might as well stick around for another year and see if he could win the championship, and he did. So I kind of feel like it's the same. They're so young that there's no rush. They might as well stay there for a little bit longer. So yeah, I feel like there's not actually that many more driving out. I guess we can talk about Rafael Villagomez doing F2 as well. That was announced on the 19th of January, so about a week ago now. But I mean, that's been announced. Again, he's 22, stepping into F2, which isn't too bad. It's a bit older than average. And obviously, we know he has connections with VAR, and that'll be how he got the seat, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, everyone knows this. He was 25th in the standings in F3, so, it's clear that they're not picking him based on his F3 results, put it that way. But it was so obvious it was coming. I mean, it was rumoured last year, let alone this year. I was kind of surprised when it didn't happen last year, so I knew it was going to happen this year. So, yeah. He raced with the team in F3 as well. So I guess at least he knows the team. So he's going to not have to get used to a new team. But I'm sure, I've seen a lot of people saying he's going to bring them in a lot of money. And I've seen a lot of people saying they think he's going to be this generation's Nissani, which isn't promising. But it is going to be a huge step for him. And I feel like it might be a Brad Benavides situation, just out of his depth. Just unable to, keep up. So yeah, we'll see. I don't want to put a curse on him, but good luck to him is what I'll say. And the last one I'll talk about for this episode, because it was announced on the same day as Rafael Villagomez, is Casper Stuka doing Formula 3 with MP Motorsport this year. He's a Red Bull junior, he's 17 years old, and he won Italian F4 last year. I think he's going to have a great year in F3. MP are a good team. He's clearly a good driver. I'm excited to see how he does. He was very impressive in Italian F4. He won a lot of races in a row. I remember he just had this unstoppable streak towards the end of the Italian F4 Championship. So I have really high hopes for him. I see a lot of Polish fans hyping him up. I'm really excited that they've got a driver coming through the ranks, which is great to see. So yeah, end it on a positive note. I think Casper Stuka is going to have a really good year in F3 this year. That's everything that I'm going to talk about today. This was a lot more rambly and chatty than usual, I will admit, but it's kind of fun. It's fun to just have a little gossip, have a little chill, kind of like just being on FaceTime, having a chat with a friend. So I hope you enjoyed. Hope you learnt something. Hope you found a new driver to support or a new series to watch. And I'll be back next week with another episode. Hopefully soon I'll be able to do some F2 predictions, some F3 predictions once we know all of the drivers on the grid, because I want to have the full picture before I start making predictions. I'm going to make some F1 Academy predictions as well. So yeah, stay tuned. New episode next Sunday. Have a great week. Bye.